The shadows stretch long over the sprawling ruins of cities, their whispers carried upon the brisk winds that sweep through the corridors of time. Here at the crossroads of past and present, a haunting stillness belies the chaos of human ambition. The echoes of a powerful empire linger in the air. Rome, a name that ignites visions of grandeur and calamity, of glory sought and lost, of power that once commanded the known world. But what if I told you that the heartbeats of that ancient civilization still thrum beneath the surface of our modern existence? Imagine, for a moment, the turbulent streets of today, not merely filled with voices shouting forth their hopes and grievances, but as pathways overflowing with the very essence of human conflict and ambition, a constant dance between the aspirations of the many and the might of the few. Faces illuminated by the flickering glow of screens capture this tumult, yet the foundations that frame this modern discord resonate with another time and place. The grandeur of the Roman Senate, with its marble columns standing against the heavens, was once a crucible of power where debate erupted, ideologies clashed, and destinies were forged. In this immersive landscape, we must ponder a provocative question. Is our democracy a mere shadow cast by the glowing embers of a fallen empire? Can we untangle the threads connecting the political chaos of our era to the governance of a civilization that flourished millennia ago? What stands between us and the past is a tapestry woven with intriguing connections, a legacy both profound and perilous. The sun sets low over the forum, casting a warm golden hue on the weathered stones that once reverberated with the voices of statesmen and citizens alike. Each brick is a testimony to ambition, to visions of order amidst chaos. As we journey through the annals of history, we find the layers of governance established by Rome, a complex web of laws, alliances, and institutions that still echo in the halls of power today. This intricate reality was built on the backs of ordinary Romans, people whose hopes and fears were wrapped in the grandeur of the Republic. Yet, what do we know of their struggles? The average citizen trudging through bustling marketplaces lined with vibrant wares, feeling the weight of duty mixed with the flicker of hope. They too engaged in the political machinations of the day, their lives intertwined with the ebb and flow of power. The question then becomes not just about what happened in those ancient times, but how did it shape the world we navigate now? As we delve deeper into this cinematic exploration, consider the geographical tapestry that cradled Rome. The gleaming Mediterranean embraced a multitude of cultures, each spellbinding in its own right. Bartering with traders from distant lands, adoration for the arts mingled with civic pride. And yet the hills around the Tiber River provided not only shelter but also a strategic vantage point, a delicate balance of power, an intricate dance of dominance. Such positioning dictated not just territorial expansion but political philosophies that formed the bedrock of a republic. In reflecting upon this, we find ourselves at the crossroads of philosophy and power. The idealism of a government of the people stands in stark contrast to the realities witnessed through the dusty streets of Rome. It is within this dichotomy that the foundations of authority wrestled with the aspirations of its citizens. Herein lies a thought that quickens the pulse. What unseen advantages propelled Rome to greatness, and how do those echoes resonate in our time of turbulence? Every corner we turn reveals layers beneath our feet. We must tread carefully as we uncover the pregnant silence of unresolved tension, threading through the corridors of our modern power structures. Can we trace the lineage of political ambition without confronting the stark vulnerabilities that have come to define humanity's pursuit of governance? Close your eyes and imagine the intimate whispers of daily life in ancient Rome. An artist's brush graces a canvas with vibrant hues, the scent of fresh bread lingers in the air, and the laughter of children dances joyfully beneath the watchful eyes of their parents. Yet woven through these moments are the very threads of political manipulation and personal aspiration, enriching the experience of being both a citizen and a subject. In this city that layered every emotion with deep philosophical inquiry, can we not draw parallels to our own experiences, where joy often melds with despair, hope intertwines with fear? As we drift forward, the shifting sands reveal not mere structures of governance, but the very human experiences that tested the limits of ambition and oversight. The sentiment of a family huddled together, eyes wide with hope for the day's harvest alongside fears of political upheaval. Lives intertwined with the machinations of senators whose decisions might just uproot their futures. This is where vulnerability blooms amidst ambition. This is the essence of history, turbulent, messy, yet achingly human. Yet as we stand at this pivotal intersection, we feel the shift. The ambitions that once pulsated through Rome transform into a narrative fraught with tension, civil wars erupt, power plays dissolve alliances, and leaders rise only to fall in tragic spectacle. A question hauntingly lingers: what drove these central figures to seek greatness at such a monumental cost? The debts owed to the past can often eclipse the aspirations of future generations, and as the empire sought to protect itself, the very ideals it championed began to unravel. It comes as no surprise that the story of Rome is filled with immense drama and visceral emotion. The fabric of everyday life across its vibrant tapestry reflected the tumult of its ruling class. Political gatherings that once breathed life into the ideals of democracy became exacerbated mirrors of divided loyalty, ambition wrestling with fear in a struggle for control. As we honor those ancient walls, it is through their narratives we approach our contemporary existence, complicit in their legacy yet ever resilient. Hold on to that thought, the fragility of power and the repercussions of ambition, for as we continue this expedition through time, we will confront the enduring influence of Rome. Each step we take ripples through history, leaving footprints not just in the sand but in the very essence of human governance, a contemplation of what was and what still might be. As the evening sky envelops the ruins in darkness, a palpable tension lingers in the air, echoing across the centuries. Through the shadows of empire, we begin to discern the silhouettes of our modern world, beckoning us to delve deeper into the enigma of governance and to unravel the legacies that have shaped our time, just as they shaped those who came before us. In the quiet spaces between breaths, we shall journey forth into the heart of a story that binds us all. As we venture deeper into the rich tapestry of ancient Rome, we can trace the very threads that informed its political ideologies, societal constructs, and importantly its struggles, all of which have laid the groundwork for the modern systems that govern us today. The sprawling city nestled on the banks of the Tiber River may appear humble in its geographic constraints, yet its position was pivotal. The river was not merely a waterway, it was a lifeline that nourished agriculture, facilitated trade, and acted as a natural barrier against invasions. This confluence of resources and protection allowed for the flourishing of a civilization steeped in aspirations of grandeur. Utilizing the geographic advantages bestowed by its location, Rome developed not only a formidable military, but also a robust economic framework that spurred growth. The agricultural staples cultivated in the surrounding rural landscapes filled the markets. As farmers exchanged goods, their labor was a silent agreement, a barter of life that fed the heart of Roman society. Grain from fertile provinces reached the bustling urban centers where the very pulse of governance emerged. It was this intricate dance of supply and demand that served as the bedrock for social hierarchies, setting the stage for the differentiation that would later underpin tragic conflicts between the patricians and plebeians, the haves and have-nots. The nuanced understanding of socio-economic classes played a critical role in shaping Roman identity. The patricians, with their wealth and connections, held sway over the decision-making processes, often overlooking the voices of the vast majority. And yet, when evening fell and the warmth of family gatherings filled modest apartments, the common citizen still bore dreams of influence, echoing the very principles of the Republic that promised equality and shared governance. As gladiatorial games enthralled thousands, a primal spectacle of life and death unfolded, a visceral reminder of the stark realities their civilization grappled with. Do we draw a parallel here to our modern distractions? Is entertainment still a balmy balm for the discontented soul? Yet, with the tantalizing promise of power came the relentless ambition of those who sought it. The political sphere became a realm of intrigue, where the transformation of democracy into a more autocratic rule laid the groundwork for conflicts that beset generations. Political gatherings were not merely formal meetings, they were births of ideas filled with the fervor of rhetoric, reverberating off marble columns directed towards the ears of plebeians and patricians alike. Within these assemblies, philosophical thought merged with political action, infusing governance with questions that traversed beyond mere rule. Leadership and citizenship flourished alongside ideals that could elevate or destroy. Imagining the vivid locales of Rome allows us to grasp the palpable tension that lingered during these formative years. The Curia, where senators debated, held an air thick with the weight of expectation, a space heightened by aspirations and dashed dreams. Picture the worn faces of statesmen, their brows furrowed with the strain of maintaining power and ensuring stability in ever-changing landscapes. Discovering the underlying aspirations of a society can lead us to understand its ambitions, but also its vulnerabilities. Each moment of reflection offers an opportunity to decipher the silent cries for justice born from everyday lives in the city. The laws that emerged from Rome, too, would echo through time, their principles instilling practices that would shape future governance across multiple civilizations. The 12 Tables, a series of laws etched in timeless memory, presented the balance between civil rights and state power. Herein lay the inherent contradictions of governance. How does a society balance the rule of many against the interests of the few? Such ideological rifts, the same that fueled Rome's rise, also planted seeds of division. Would the strains of moral authority and economic desperation become cynically intertwined, rooting their way into the hearts of future empires, shaping an understanding of governance that would wax and wane with history? Reflecting on these power dynamics sets the stage for understanding the growing psychological complexities of leadership. If early tensions hinged upon prestige and entitlement, we must ponder how deeply comprehension of right and wrong intertwined with personal ambition. Could it be that those who once stood for the ideals of democracy were ultimately drawn into a dark spiral, seeking survival in power at the cost of their own principles? As the years progressed, the fractures within society only deepened. Leaders rose to power promising reform and equity, yet delivered tangents that disillusioned the masses. Much like modern electoral cycles, which parade ideals of hope against the fray of relentless ambition, the Romans navigated a complex landscape where self-interest blunted the edge of civic duty. The promise of a government that served the many was suffocated under clouds of opportunism, betrayal stirring beneath the grandiosity of republican ideals. Yet there remains an undeniable ache for that sense of shared responsibility, each citizen carrying their voice amid the cacophony of political machinations. The vulnerabilities of the citizenry could be heard in the quiet sighs of those gathered, murmuring their beliefs in the very heart of the forum. We must consider, how today do we too grapple with the ever-present echoes of ancient failures? What transformations loom over us, waiting in the shadows, their lessons still relevant, yet unlearned? Pausing now at critical junctures, we can examine how the ambitions of notable figures like Julius Caesar, whose very name carries a legacy of both reverence and infamy, created pathways to profound change. The very man who first crossed the Rubicon sparked a conflict that illuminated the tensions deep within Roman society. Here we witness the swirling dance of identity, ambition, and consequence, an intricate interplay that would lead to civil wars that fractured the democratic fabric of the Republic. Yet with each battle and political upheaval, a philosophical evolution was taking place. Stoicism, as embraced by statesmen and thinkers alike, emerged as a response to the relentless pressures of governance and the human psyche. It offered guidance on the virtues of resilience, virtue, and duty. Much like how we seek solace in structures that empower collective harmony today, the Romans too found refuge in doctrines that encouraged both personal and political integrity amidst the storm. Within the crucible of transformation, the evolution of Roman governance was anything but linear. As the Republic waned and the Empire emerged, the power dynamics shifted significantly. The dichotomy between freedom and control now played out upon a larger stage, the stakes dramatically escalating. The promise of a stable rule became precariously balanced atop the desires that propelled their leaders forward. The legacy of ambition fused with power set in motion, a tide of fate we cannot simply dismiss, for within those tides lie the very undercurrents that would steer political systems for centuries to come. Now, as twilight descends upon our exploration of Rome, we approach the precipice of grand transformations, the descent of an empire that would ripple through the ages, echoing across time and geography. Treading along this pathway, we bear witness to the complexities of emergence and collapse. In each moment, the aspirations embedded in governance intertwine with the fears that rise in tumultuous waves. But what consequences unfurl in the aftermath of such momentous change? And how do we carry the weight of such legacies as we cross the thresholds of our own breaking points? These questions linger in the twilight of history, pulling us forward into the heart of our narrative, urging us to reflect upon the indelible marks left by those ancient shadows and the lessons yet to be heeded. With the first stars twinkling overhead, the ruins before us whisper tales of glory, grief, and the enigmatic force that dwells within the ambition of mankind. As we continue onward, let us attune ourselves to the haunting echoes of this ancient legacy, gradually preparing our hearts for the irrevocable truths soon to be revealed. As we cast our gaze upon the intricacies of Roman life, we uncover narratives woven through the daily routines and traditions of its citizenry, where the very essence of existence shaped a civilization that thrived despite, or perhaps because of, its profound disparities. In the bustling streets of Rome, the cacophony of life vibrated with the urgency of commerce, laughter resonating alongside the rhythmic clanging of metal from the blacksmith's forge. Here, men and women wove their fates amid the weathered stones, the very heartbeat of the city anchored in marketplaces that buzzed with energy, where merchants displayed their wares beneath awnings that fluttered gently in the breeze. Picture yourself among these ancient voices, wandering down the Via Sacra, where the aroma of fresh bread and honey mingled in the air. Women would gather with baskets brimming with produce, their skin kissed by the sun, faces warm with camaraderie as they exchanged gossip and recipes. Families were vibrant, filled with children darting between the stalls, playing amid the laughter of their parents who savored fleeting moments as fleeting as the passing clouds. Social hierarchies were stark, and yet in these fleeting interactions, the lines blurred, if only for a heartbeat. The rich patronizing the arts could observe a painter skilled enough to catch the faces of gods, while the poor remained trapped in the gravity of their struggles, each day an exercise in resilience. Imagine a humble family dwelling, its walls constructed from mud brick, preserving the warmth of the Mediterranean sun, filled with the scent of olive oil and garum, the pungent fish sauce that turned humble fare into a culinary delight. The communal rituals of mealtimes brought forth a sense of belonging. Flatbreads and seasonal fruits, accompanied by olives and perhaps a shared jug of wine, narrated stories of shared struggles and triumphs. Here every element became symbolic, the simplest meal stitching together the fabric of family, understanding that the bounty of the land was both a gift and a privilege, and the gravity of every choice deeply felt. Religion, too, was woven into the fabric of everyday life, with households maintaining sacred shrines to the Lares and Penates, the guardian spirits believed to protect the hearth. Daily prayers, often murmured softly as morning rays broke through a thin veil, offered solace and connection to the divine. Festivals filled the calendar with moments of shared exuberance, vibrant parades honoring Jupiter, Bacchus, and Venus that captivated the heart of the populace. As offerings were made amidst the flicker of torches in the night air, one could almost hear the collective sigh of gratitude, as if Rome's pantheon breathed in concert with the bustling masses below. Architecture, monumental in nature, stretched skyward, echoing the ambitions of an entire civilization. The Colosseum stood as a magnificent testament to the Roman ability to blend artistry and engineering. Yet, beyond the grandeur, it stood also as an arena where humanity's darker instincts were laid bare. Spectacles of both beauty and brutality unfolded here, where the crowd erupted in applause, the rise and fall of gladiators circling endlessly, as if echoing the very struggles of their society. What does it mean to construct a Colosseum where life and death become entertainment? Are we not also complicit in the blood of sacrifice, drawn into narratives that compel us to confront our primal fears? As the sun dipped low over the 7 hills, casting elongated shadows that intertwined, we delved deeper into the emotional landscape of those who walked the cobbled streets. The psychological tension of this society, magnified under the contrasting aspirations of its leaders and the crushing responsibilities felt by ordinary citizens. The weight of expectation loomed over every household, dreams both worn and frayed at the edges, while whispers of political betrayal twisted through gatherings, fueling a climate charged with uncertainty. Within the walls of family life, the roles of women narrated silent stories often overshadowed by the louder ambitions of men. Matrons, wielding influence behind the scenes, were responsible for managing the household and often steered familial allegiances with grace. Their wisdom and intuition shaped destiny while often remaining cloistered, muffled by the louder proclamations of male politicians who thrust themselves into the public arena. Patricians adorned themselves in rich togas of flowing fabric, symbols of wealth that trailed behind them, while plebeians donned simpler tunics, a reminder of their place beneath the ambitious elite. Yet within this rigid framework of social structure, moments of compassionate defiance broke through. The quiet rebellions of the common citizen, demanding rights, whisperings that uncoiled dreams of representation and equity, echoed through the corridors of the Forum. Rituals punctuated the days, each imbued with significance, from the dedication of new temples to the seasonal festivities that celebrated the bounty of the earth. The Saturnalia, a festival honoring Saturn, embodied the inversion of societal roles. Chaos triumphed temporarily as masters served their slaves, a brief, intoxicating taste of freedom woven into the fabric of their otherwise structured lives. The laughter shared during these moments rang out brightly, as if to illuminate the darkness that loomed beneath the surface, hinting at the subtle discord that would challenge the very foundations of the Republic. Yet as these vibrant celebrations faded, whispers of a darker reality crept in. Threads of discontent wove their way through the fabric of society, igniting a yearning for equity and justice. The Stoic philosophy that permeated the minds of many sought to anchor them in turbulent currents, urging them toward virtue and resilience while questioning the very nature of power and ambition. Again, we encounter the contrast between the ideals articulated in the Senate and the reality lived by the people. The democratic principles that promised representation often fell victim to the allure of coercion and manipulation. Citizens debated and dreamt of an ideal society, yet the hands of their leaders tightened around the reins of control as personal ambitions began to overshadow common good. How often do we modern citizens grapple with conflicting feelings about those who govern us today? Are these remnants of ancient dissonance still echoing in our midst, a reflection of our own struggles against the currents of self-interest? As we weave through these vivid hues of Roman life, we harbor a desire to understand the motivations propelling individuals toward power. The push and pull between ambition and morality comes into stark focus when placed against the backdrop of the unyielding tides of history. Beneath the facade of unity, secret ambitions lurked, simmering just below the surface, even in the heart of the Republic. In the throes of political transformation, concepts such as citizenship took on profound meanings, shaping both individual identities and collective aspirations. The rights of Roman citizens became sacred yet were often manipulated, their very humanity held hostage to the grand claims of those who wielded power. The emotional atmosphere of inclusion and exclusion permeated every conversation. The desire to belong, to be part of a larger narrative, could embolden or entrap. The labyrinth of palatial corridors echoed with whispers of ambition, filled with fear and hope as politicians veered between creating policy for the greater good and succumbing to the seductive pull of power. We can feel them living in constant tension, grappling as if waiting for a thunderous applause, yet we must ponder the cost of their desires. In our quest to grasp the essence of a civilization that teeters forever on the edge of glory and ruin, we embrace a deeper understanding of the human condition. Each story discerned from their daily lives illuminates shadows stretching into our modern age, beckoning us to confront the cyclical nature of aspirations and betrayals, to launch ourselves into profound reflections that may yet hold answers. As we breathe in the complex layers of this ancient world, we sense echoes of ambition reverberating across time, with ancient Rome standing as both a mirror and a precursor to our own struggles for balance. As narratives intertwine within the grand tapestry, we are gently led onward toward an exploration of transformations yet to come. The undercurrents of ambition, fraught with danger yet electrified by promise, tantalize us on the horizon, signifying the impending tides of change that will sweep both citizen and society alike. Each moment grows laden with significance, and as shadows gather around us once more, we remain eager to discover what future awaits, what lessons lie laced within the fabric of this ancient life, waiting to unravel before our very eyes. As we stand poised on the precipice of transformation, the Roman landscape begins to shift dramatically, each political maneuver and personal ambition setting into motion a cascade of events that would eventually redefine the essence of governance. The rise of influential figures, each with their unique ideologies and aspirations, drew the Republic into an era marked by profound conflict. Here, power struggles surged like tidal waves against a crumbling shoreline, reshaping all in their path. Picture the figure of Gaius Julius Caesar, a man whose cunning, charisma, and philosophical leanings clashed with the Republic's cherished traditions. Fueled by ambition and a desire for reform, he set out to rewrite the laws of governance, strategically aligning himself with popular sentiment while dismantling the power of the Senate that once held Rome together. What drove this man to pursue glory at such an unparalleled cost? The wrecking ball of personal aspirations smashed through the carefully constructed facade of the Republic, challenging the very definition of leadership and civic duty. Across the cobblestones of Rome, a tension simmered, fueled by social pressure and competing ideologies. The Senate, a bastion of elitism, grappled with the realities of a populace that sought representation. Yet, while noble families tightened their grips on power, the voices of soldiers returning from conquest resonated with discontent. The expansionist policies that had brought Rome wealth also sowed the seeds of inequality. Returning veterans, stripped of their lands and livelihoods, became disillusioned, and their growing restlessness fed into the fertile soil of Caesar's rise. What may seem like a singular ambition in Caesar could be viewed as a symbolic shift in power dynamics. Rulers began to occupy a delicate tightrope walk anchored by ideology and necessity. Each step taken by these leaders reverberated through the streets, crafting a historical narrative teetering between enlightened governance and autocratic rule. Citizens found themselves swept up in the whirlwind of civil strife, wrestling with the haunting realization that their very survival hinged on the choices of these towering figures. Ambition, it seems, became a relentless force driving men like Pompey and Crassus, their destinies woven into Caesar's like threads in a vast tapestry formed by winds of change. The first triumvirate emerged, a clandestine alliance forged not out of loyalty but of necessity, and in this gathering of powerful men, we see a microcosm of the societal battle between republic and empire. Loyalty and treachery began to blend as the once revered institutions of governance faltered under the weight of personal ambition, transforming former allies into dangerous adversaries. What happened when the very pillars supporting the republic began to tremble? Civil wars erupted, spiraling into chaos. Streets that once thrummed with the pulse of commerce now echoed with the fervor of violence. Battles forced choices upon men, loyalty or betrayal, life or death. The Civil War rendered the ideals of citizenship, once celebrated with festivity and rhetoric, hollow in the face of survival. As we trace the contours of this tumultuous period, we cannot overlook the ideological frictions playing out beneath the surface. Influenced by philosophical thought, Stoicism began to cultivate a deeper understanding of virtue amidst chaos, calling for a return to reason even as the fate of Rome hung in precarious balance. And so we witness the dichotomy of human nature. Amidst ambition, some pondered the greater good, while others indulged in the pursuit of dominion over their fellow citizens. Upon the ashes of conflict came profound change, unfolding through the chaos of Caesar's dictatorship, an impetus for reform amid the ruins of the Senate. While his autocratic grasp shattered the illusions of collective governance, it birthed the seeds of what would evolve into a new Roman identity under the guise of emperorship. The act of crossing the Rubicon became a metaphor for irrevocable decisions, as the threshold into chaos loomed. Yet the assassination of Julius Caesar in 44 BCE signified a pivotal tragedy, echoing across the ages. The very act intended to safeguard the Republic dissolved into further chaos, prompting Mark Antony and Octavian to engage in their battle for supremacy. The narrative deepened, a complex choreography of men drawn together by ambition but divided by convictions, friends turned enemies drawn into the gravitas of their own choices. It was a political dance, elegantly lethal, and we can almost hear the vibrating strings of conflict resounding as they moved. Amidst battles and political machinations, we must not overlook the layers of emotional reality, a spectrum of fear, hope, despair, and agency that was as compelling in the lives of ordinary citizens as it was among leaders. Families grieved the loss of fathers on far-off battlefields, while others celebrated victories that often masked the cost of human life. The politics of fear began to intertwine with belief systems, creating a potent mix that rippled through society. As these multifaceted shifts enveloped Rome, we find ourselves pondering the ramifications of power on individual existence. What did it mean for the common citizen when the principles of a republic gave way to autocratic rule? Economic disparities widened, creating fissures not only in society but in the very soul of the city. Public trust in governance diminished, culminating in the exhaustion of ideals as once venerated laws fell to the force of great ambitions. The ensuing political transformations reshaped the identity of the Roman citizen, sowing discontent amid failed promises and shifting allegiances. While Octavian emerged as Augustus, marking the dawn of the Roman Empire, we perceive the echoes of the Republic still resonating deep within the populace. Citizens were caught in a complex web of their own creation. A civilization that had once celebrated participatory governance now found itself at the mercy of imperial decree. Yet through dynastic succession, ideals held in silence awaited their resurgence beneath the surface. As we navigate this historical current, we realize that the sunlight of transformation was shadowed by growing discontent. Tensions beneath the surface foreshadowed a tumultuous future that would not shy away from conflict as the social fabric began to fray. The shift from republic to empire entailed more than mere political change. It reshaped the character of governance, forcing citizens to reconsider their roles and humanity amid emerging stability. Yet, like the ebbing of the tide, every empire faces its expiration. We begin to sense the looming collision of past ambitions with future realities, felt in hushed whispers as the cracks in imperial power widened. Provinces once profiting from imperial blessings grew restless, spurred by the historical burden of identity redefined amid expanding borders and shifting allegiances. In this crucible of change, guided by intricate power dynamics, the notion of citizenship itself grew increasingly complex. As Rome expanded, it absorbed cultures and languages, sowing diversity while fostering internal tensions. New ideals of governance began to emerge, influenced by a melange of beliefs that would challenge the rigidity of traditional Roman identity, setting the stage for reforms and revolts that would eventually contribute to its downfall. Though the visible might of the Roman Empire illuminated the cultural landscape, it was often the invisible currents of dissent that precipitated transformation. As dissatisfaction simmered, a flood of reforms beckoned. Leaders began to recognize that survival hinged not only on fortune, but also on an ingrained understanding of the populace they ruled. A shifting narrative emerged among discontented social strata as the need for representation echoed loudly, compelling voices lost in the clamor of ambition once more into the political arena. And thus we carry forth through Rome's labyrinthine pathways, under the weight of unresolved tensions layered against a backdrop of ambition, conflict, and transient power. The emotional landscape remains charged with the realities of struggle, that within each epoch of rise lies a foreshadowing of inevitable decline, and within decline, whispers of renewal. As we traverse through the remaining echoes of an empire that shaped history, we approach a threshold where the lessons inscribed in marble and stone will reveal themselves. The stage is set for even deeper revelations, beckoning us to continue extracting the complex threads binding past ambitions to contemporary consciousness. There in the shadows of ambition, we shall glean more about the weight of decisions, the struggles for representation, and perhaps the inevitable cost of power as history unfurls, relentlessly revealing the echoes that continue to shape our modern world. As we venture deeper into the unraveling of Rome, we approach a delicate juncture, halfway between the grandeur of an empire and the stirrings of unrest. It is here that the architecture of power began to reveal its vulnerabilities. existing within a framework forged from ambition, pride, and courage. With each passing decade, the social tapestry grew increasingly complex, weaving together the aspirations of distant provinces with the sophisticated yet often suffocating machinations of the imperial heart. The territories beyond the Tiber, once bound by the glorious promise of Rome's expanding borders, began to stir. Those who had been drawn into the folds of the empire now felt the weight of an identity equally rich yet confounding. Within the far reaches of Britannia, Gaul, and Judea, local customs intermingled with Roman practices, reshaping the meaning of citizenship itself. But beneath this rich surface clashed local aspirations and imperial expectations, spurring ambivalence, an emotional response that resonated with men and women alike, now caught between allegiance to the empire and loyalty to their homelands. In this sacred dance of identities, the legacy of ambition bore fruit but also rancor, and we can almost hear the whispers of everyday lives pressed under the competing demands of governance and sovereignty. As awareness of their shifting identities began to crystallize, locale-based resistance emerged, an expression of self-identity struggling to align with the overarching narrative dictated by Rome. The taxations enforced by distant rulers, once celebrated for their fairness, grew into a bitter pill for subjects who cherished autonomy. Yet behind this tension lingered another force, a profound yearning for community. The gradual erosion of trust in imperial structures became both a spectacle of decline and a clarion call for adaptation. Across the vast expanse of Roman territories, towns and cities grappled with resource depletion, their souls mingling with remnants of forgotten glories. Proud amphitheaters now faded, temples crumbling under the weight of time. Citizens shifted their focus from the grandeur of governance to the intimacy of daily survival. They sought to redefine their place in a world that felt increasingly remote and disconnected from its heart. As Rome continued to expand, its borders shifted, flaring outward like the tentacles of an octopus, subjected to the inevitable consequences of oversaturation. The elite, so empathetically engrossed in preserving their status, could hardly foresee how their motives and methods would ultimately unravel the fabric of society. Amidst lavish feasts and opulent decorations, a growing faction of disillusioned citizens began murmuring against the disproportionate privileges enjoyed by those in power. Reflecting this discontent were the early cries for change that echoed down through the alleyways of Rome, a stark reminder of the gap that continually widened between the rulers and those they ruled. The streets that had once thrummed with political vigor now thrummed with a different kind of energy, a collective yearning for agency felt in the footsteps of citizens marching toward an uncertain future. And so Rome soon found itself not just battling external foes, but fighting an eruption of voices rising from within its own walls, a reminder that societal stability demands justice, and justice often remains painfully out of reach. Amid these cauldrons of emotions arose the shadows of rebellion, throbbing like a heartbeat beneath the stony facade of the Senate. The leadership, instead of embracing this cultural amalgamation and discontent, often reacted with brutality, seeking cohesion through authoritarian measures rather than understanding. As tensions simmered from the provinces to the distant courts, the interconnectedness of human experience resonated deeply, urging empathy over oppression. However, history teaches that the explosive nature of unresolved conflict often leads to tragic outcomes, and thus, it comes as little surprise that movements once perceived as harmless would transform into the violent outcries of revolt. The synthesis of idealism tangled with the necessities of survival, emboldening figures like Spartacus, who would rise against oppression, igniting flames of resistance, reflecting the shared anguish of countless souls. As Rome's grip tightened, the gatherings of those who questioned the prevailing narrative swelled, their voices gaining an unlikely resonance. The culmination of ambition, ideology, and collective suffering tore at the very seams of the imperial tapestry, revealing not only the fragility of power but also how far removed governance can grow from the people it claims to serve. And yet, residing within this tension was the tantalizing hope for transformation, free from the constraints of tradition. Just as waves sculpt the shoreline through endless cycles of erosion and renewal, so too did the cumulative dissatisfaction lay the groundwork for change. Different strata of society began to forge alliances, commoners, soldiers, and even remnants of the senatorial class, finding common cause amidst the ruins of a once hallowed institution. Ideas explored through political philosophy and civic duty began to resonate anew, echoes of rebellion fused with whispers of reform, heralding a storm that would shape the legacy of governance for centuries to come. However, these shifting tides did not come without cost. Each act of rebellion carried with it the weight of bloodshed, a reminder that with each striving for liberation lay the potential for fragmentation. a reality felt profoundly during the infamous civil wars to mark the transition from republic to empire. Within these struggles, the balance of power ebbed and flowed between emerging factions, shattering old alliances and forging new ones, drawing painful lines upon the historical map. Amid the cries of victory, we hear the echoes of loss resounding through ancient streets, the relentless pursuit of freedom often shadowed by mortality. Families mourned the fallen, their prayers mingled with the incantations of hope for the future, their hopes intertwined with the narrative of survival as the curtains of time fell upon critical junctures. What did it mean for a civilization to endure such conflict, and how did they reconcile their battle-ridden pasts with the dreams of a brighter tomorrow? As the dust settled and the echoes of rebellion transformed into the foundations for a new order, the identity of Rome underwent profound metamorphosis. With Augustus stepping into power, a paradox emerged, a restoration of order rooted in the lessons of chaos. The colors of governance would shimmer anew, blending past ambitions with the pressing need for stability, but beneath the surface, the fractures remained. The idealism of the Republic was elegantly woven into the fabric of empire, and yet as dawn broke, a sense of melancholy lingered, a gentle reminder of what had been sacrificed at the altar of ambition. Thus, as time continued its slow unraveling, the once dominant idealism of the Roman citizen grew fragile, shifting like the grains of sand slipping through an outstretched hand. The promises of prosperity, equity, and representation began to tarnish under the unyielding light of imperial rule, yet the persistent hope for representation flickered like embers, refusing to be extinguished, cultivated by the memory of courage through hardship. In this historical landscape defined by complex motivations, we find the discord that would come to characterize the late empire. As new dynamics shaped emerging political thought, so too did they draw from the rich legacy of Rome's own past, a past still echoing within the corridors of power and the hearts of common people alike. As we delve into the layers of this transformative phase, we remain keenly aware that the shadows of the Republic never truly fade. The Republic's principles may have lain dormant beneath the gilded facade of emperorship, but they would not be so easily forgotten. Through the cycles of power and rebellion, adaptation and ambition, we are drawn into a deeper understanding of how Rome's past reverberates through the ages, a poignant message that underscores humanity's ceaseless quest for a voice amid the crushing weight of history, an invitation to reflect on our own present, where the lines of ambition, identity, and the legacy of power continue to blur, revealing the eternal dance of humanity's aspirations and its collective memory. The twilight of Rome casts long shadows over the landscapes of time, stretching across the centuries to echo softly within our own contemporary consciousness. As we stand at the crossroads of past and present, it becomes crucial to consider not just what has been lost, but what has been enduringly woven into the fabric of our political existence, traces of human ambition, unyielding ideals, and the resilient spirit of governance that can rise again, even from the ashes. What remains in the aftermath of such monumental upheaval? Within the crumbling ruins, marbled columns still stand tall, relics of a vast empire that once exerted influence over disparate lands, enshrining its values and ambitions into the very stones of the world. Yet those stones now speak in whispers, telling of how their once lively voices resound in the dusty corridors of contemporary democracy. Grand Senate building, with its echoes of rhetoric and impassioned pleas for the people, reverberates still, transformed yet familiar, a spectral reminder of Rome's ambitions that persist through the ages. In this quiet reflection, we discover the ways people have come to remember and reinterpret their ancient heritage. The symbols of Rome's governance have been absorbed, adapted, and occasionally distorted by societies, each generation shaping their own narrative while drinking deeply from the well of history. The principles originating from Republican Rome, such as civic duty and the role of law, have echoed through the annals of time, adapting to fit burgeoning democracies yet remaining tethered to their origins in justice and equality. Consider the modern state, the threads of governance laden with the weight of history often drawing directly from the lexicon of Roman law. The constellations of thought, emerging from the philosophies of Marcus Aurelius and Cicero, shine brightly in our political debates today. Yet the identities of people change amid these inherited ideas, blurred through layers of time and evolving cultures. Are we then merely vessels through which the echoes of Rome traverse, or do we dare to forge new paths with the remnants of ancient wisdom as our guide? As we traverse the ruins, the fragmented mosaics of identities once bound within imperial borders, we cannot help but feel the presence of those who came before. Every gust of wind through the fallen arches carries the spirits of citizens who confronted the complexities of power, who spoke their truths within the vibrancy of public forums, and whispered their fears down cobbled streets. Their lives, woven into the very essence of Rome, resonate today as we grapple with questions of authority, representation, and justice. And yet, amid this reverberation lies a more profound understanding, an opportunity to glimpse the cyclical nature of human societies. Just as the tides lap gently against the shores, so too do the lessons of Rome rise and fall, gaining clarity in quiet introspection. The echoes of ambition become mingled with somber melodies of chaos, reminding us that power is not an entity to be possessed but rather a privilege demanding accountability. As institutions that once held the weight of an empire flounder today, we observe an inherent fragility interlaced with the resilience of human nature. Historical memories shift like the sands of the desert, shaping and reshaping identities against the backdrop of time's relentless progression. The vast landscapes that once buzzed with the energy of governance now seem tranquil, yet they harbor the emotional remnants of voices long extinguished, a poignant reminder of the past and a bridge to our evolving narratives. Look closely at the remnants left behind, the amphitheaters embedded within modern cities, the aqueducts nurturing ambitious urban sprawl, coaxing life from ancient designs of excellence. These monumental vestiges, battered by the winds of change, continue to serve not only as relics but as instructive whispers, urging reflection on how best to navigate governance in an age that is as much defined by its legacies as it is by its ambitions. Are we to be faithful stewards of history or unwitting participants in its cycles? As we delve into this eternal dialogue between the past and present, a quiet epiphany emerges, the realization that we carry the burden of memory and the need to honor it. History, while appearing as a sequence of fragmented events, morphs into a living tapestry intricately woven with the aspirations, hopes, and failures of countless generations. How do we interpret this history? How do we allow it to inform our decisions as we face new challenges, further removed from ancient Rome yet irrevocably intertwined with its narrative? Engaging with the silence that surrounds us also means entering the realm of reflection, where we allow the landscapes to breathe, where we listen for the heartbeats of those who stood before us. What whispers remain alive in our institutions echoing from the Roman Senate? In a complex world of newfound strife and discord, the art of dialogue remains as crucial as it was generations ago, and yet how often are these echoes drowned out by the noise of modernity? In this solemn contemplation, we recognize that Rome's legacy lies not solely in its glories, but in its resolve to survive through the passage of time, a continuity born of resilience, of innovations that prompted further evolutions. The decline of Rome was not the end but a transition, one that bequeathed wisdom upon our world, even as the specter of ambition haunted the contours of its downfall. This relentless journey from glory to fragility teaches us that societal structures remain susceptible to the very ideals from which they stem. As we gaze across the vast fields that once flourished under imperial rule, we observe anew the patterns emerging from the shadows of memory, recognizing that we too are custodians of our own narratives. Can we honor our past while daring to reshape our futures, finding inspiration in the echoes of Rome that still drift through the air? The monuments may crumble, but the ideals remain vivid, urging us to ponder our place within this continuum of humanity. We may find solace in knowing that history has not definitively drawn its final curtain. The story continues, an unfinished narrative that invites us to add our own chapters, all while embracing the whispers of those who forged their paths before us. And as we listen closely, we discover that the essence of civilization resides not merely in the structures that stand, but in the stories that course through our veins, the dreams held fast by silent resilience, woven from our collective past. In the end, our journey through these realms, illuminated by reflections on power, ambition, and humanity's eternal search for meaning, guides us to a soft landing amidst the echoes of Rome. Can we contemplate these legacies with reverence and wisdom, bearing witness to their complexity? For in the faint rustle of leaves, in the soft glow of twilight, there lies a timeless truth. Although the grand halls of power may fade into memory, the heart of humanity, and its quest for recognition, aspiration, and dignity, will remain forever intertwined, shaping every step taken upon the soil of our shared inheritance. And so, as we draw closer to the end of this exploration, we are left not with definitive answers but with an enduring contemplation, a gentle reminder that time is a continuous thread, weaving the past into the fabric of moments yet to come. The ghosts of Rome linger, their whispers float through the air like the evening breeze, present but intangible, urging us forward as we carry their legacy into the unknown, honoring their shadows on our shared journey across time.